Welcome back, everyone. Today we have an amazing guest. I'm so excited because we're going to talk about clutter. And as a busy person, I think all other busy people can relate to this, especially busy moms. We know the emotional weight that we carry when our homes are cluttered, when they're unorganized, and when they're just messy in general. So we've got Ashley from Rethink Clutter, and I am so excited because she is so smart and she's a professional organizer. She really digs into the psychology behind why we let clutter build up in our lives and how to get rid of the guilt and to create processes to make things easier for us, to make our lives just smoother so you can walk into your home and actually enjoy it, to have some peace. So let's do it. All right, everyone. So we're so excited to introduce our guest for today. We have Ashley Stewart from, remind me of your business name.
It's Rethink Clutter, Professional Organizing.
Awesome. Rethink Clutter, Professional Organizing. And what areas do you service here in Utah?
I do all homes and some businesses, and we do all the decluttering and organizing in a functional way.
Awesome. So we're up here in Davis County. We service Davis, Weber, and Morgan counties. Are you northern Utah or do you service?
Yes. Yeah,
area?
I typically go anywhere from North Ogden down to like South Jordan, Harriman area. So that whole section of northern Wasatch Front.
Okay, awesome. I just wanted to put that in there first because I realize Utah is not just one small area where we are, and sometimes I forget to talk about that. But going back to Rethink Clutter, tell us about your journey, how you got started, and I guess what made you want to get into decluttering in the first place.
Sure. It's really kind of funny. I was a sloppy kid. Like, I'm not one of these organizers that says, oh yeah, I've been amazing my entire life. No, I was the one that I couldn't find anything. My bedroom floor was always covered. It was nasty. It was gross. And it wasn't until I got to college and I actually had roommates that had to call an intervention and say, Ashley, you have to clean up your stuff. But it was like, oh, okay. Like, mom isn't here for me anymore. Nobody's going to be nice about it anymore. Nobody's going to do it like in bits and pieces. And that's when I realized that my mom had taught me how to be organized and I just had to implement it. And so that's when I learned that everybody can learn how to be organized to a certain degree or another if you've been taught. And that organization was a learned skill. So everybody could do it, but you had to learn how to do it. But it wasn't until later when I was doing, 3 kids under the age of 4, we had moved across the country, like every major transition we had gone through within the period of like 3 to 5 years, surgeries, births, deaths, major move, major career changes, everything
Right.
you can think of. And that's when I realized, oh, stuff can be used in a good way and stuff can be used in a bad way. And there's emotional connection and components to our things. And that's when I realized that there was way more depth into this whole organizing thing than just, can I make my stuff look nice in my house? There was a lot of realization of the clutter is emotional and decluttering is different than organizing. Decluttering is emotional and it tends to have to do with your past, and organizing is very present and it's very logical. So they're 2 very different things and I had to learn them both the hard way, but it's usually when you learn things the hard way that it sticks the best. So that's where it stuck.
No, that's amazing. And then, I guess, how did you learn? Because you talk about how decluttering is more of an emotional thing, right? How did you learn that? Like, where did you start that journey to discover what that really was?
So number one, it was going through that worst of the worst time when everything was falling apart and realizing that I was using things as a scapegoat. I was using stuff as as a comfort blanket. But at the same time, as I was trying to get on top of things, all my kids got diagnosed with a lot of different mental health disorders, behavioral disorders, neurodiversities. So we were all of a sudden dealing with autism, ADHD, ODD, OCD. I mean, just a plethora of everything that was going on, anxiety and depression. And so I could see that my feeble attempts weren't working very well with how I
Right.
knew how to do this. And so it was one of those combinations of, how do I keep my family on track? How am I going to maintain an organized household with everything going on in everybody's minds?
Right.
And at the same time, I would go into people's houses and just think, this is hopeless. How do I go into one house at a time and answer every single problem and every single issue with every single client? This is too much. This is too overwhelming. This is too much. There has to be an easier way. This has to be simpler, and I need to figure that out. So I sat down one night, put everybody to bed, sat down, and I wrote down every single reason why somebody couldn't declutter, why they were stuck, why they couldn't move forward, why they couldn't do things, why they were hiring me, all those different reasons. I wrote them all down on a piece of paper, and I cut little strips out. And then I said, okay, what's the underlying factor? Why are they so stuck? And I realized that there were 5 different main underlying factors as to why they couldn't progress and why they couldn't get going. And they were all emotional reasons. So there was overwhelm, just this entire overwhelm. There was nostalgia, which is a combination emotion. There was guilt. There was a projected value, which usually equates to a shame, or it's different than guilt. So we have guilt, we have shame, and then we have fear. And those look and sound very different, but, and then we layer them up as well. But once I figured that out, then I was like, okay, then that makes it easy. If I can identify the underlying factor, then I can identify a way out. And I realized that as I was helping my clients, I was also helping my kids. And as I was helping my kids, I was also helping my clients. I'm like, so it's all up here. It's all mental. It's all really about the executive functioning, meeting the emotions, and understanding what needs come first in our brains. And then it all just made sense to me. And so that's how I approach it. And I'm very different than any other organizer, and every organizer has their approach, which makes us awesome. And no 2 people are the same. And that's what makes room for everyone in the industry. And like you as a cleaner, like, we touch each other. We don't do each other's jobs, but we touch each other so well. Because in college, when I learned that there was a thing called organization, and then later when I learned that there was a thing called decluttering, and realized that they were different, it's like, oh, okay, cleaning is different. That has to do with sanitation and dirt and germs and that kind of thing. Decluttering is different. Organizing is different. But that also means that tidying up is different than all of that. Like, all these different things are different. We tend to use them synonymously, but they're not.
Right.
They're different, but they work so well together that if you do one, you're more likely to do the rest. And if you're stuck with one, you're more likely to not do all of the rest.
Right. That makes so much sense too, because a lot of times we forget we do things because of an emotion. There's something underlying, like you said. Sometimes clients will call in wanting to ask questions about cleaning. And sometimes it's hard to remember to ask underlying questions to discover the reasons why you want that cleaning done.
Yeah.
Sometimes people are just moving out and they just need help, but also there's a reason why you're not doing it yourself. And usually that leads to overwhelm or just being really smart with your time. I know I don't have enough time to do this clean. But I would say for 90% of our cleans too, like you're saying, people have some kind of underlying emotional, trigger that's causing them to ask for help. And they reach out a little bit to kind of test the waters. We tell ourselves things, I think, in our own minds, like, I could do it myself. I could do it later. It's not a big deal. And then eventually it becomes this overwhelming, meltdown because you've been avoiding things for so long. And I love, it is hard, I guess, from outside of your industry, people would probably blend organization and decluttering together.
Right. Yes.
They don't see the difference. Like with tidying up, people want a clean house, but if you're not tidying up frequently, the house becomes overwhelming very, very fast. And so I love the idea of thinking of those as different things and being able to understand how to do them all and open to doing them all. So you have a much, I don't know, would you say like just a calmer life in general?
Oh,
of not having,
absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. It's, I mean, we've often heard that the exterior world is a reflection of the interior world, and it goes both ways. If you
Right.
have a messy outside, you're going to be messy on the inside. But if you're messy on the inside, you're going to have a messy outside too. And that's what I realized working with neurodivergent kids, with people with mental health issues. This was messy first, and so it led to the outside. But you can do both. I can fix a house. I can't fix a brain, but I can teach. I'm not a therapist, but I can teach the methods and the understandings of this is how we deal with executive functioning to be able to make it work. But if I can give people a logical step-by-step process, this is how we do it, then all of a sudden we can get out of our own ways. And it's like, oh, okay. So you mean if I get a grip on the emotional side of things and I'm able to declutter, then that's out of the way, which just makes room for logic, which means I can do that, which means if I can get decluttered and get emotion out of the way, then I can get my logical systems and structures in place, which means I can tidy up because things have a place to go. They have a place to go, so that when I want to get clean, I can, that I don't have stuff out all over everywhere, which means I can vacuum my floors. I can wipe down my baseboards. I can clean off surfaces so that I can accomplish what I want to. So getting organized is not about being perfect and having a perfect house and looking like you live in a magazine all the time. That's
Right.
not getting organized. Although there are organizers that focus on that, the luxury organizers, let's make your house look like Kim Kardashian's pantry.
Right.
But I am more of a functional organizer. So, I mean, yes, you can do that, but it's not about looking and being perfect. Getting organized is about creating a repeatable pattern of interaction with your stuff. That's it. So, do I know what I have? Can I find it when I'm looking for it? And can I put it away when I'm done? If you can do that with every single thing that you have, then you're organized. So organization can look different for everybody because everybody has different systems. Everybody has different routines based on that repeatable pattern of use and interchange with your things. But it's so helpful when you can do all of it, because then cleaning. So here's something that's interesting about the brain. When we think about the brain, the very first thing that our brain needs is to be able to feel sensorily. So like our senses need to feel safe in a space. So if it's too bright, if it's too loud, if it's too visually cluttered, if it's too chaotic, if it doesn't feel right, those of us with sensory issues, like I hate washing the dishes without gloves on, right? I hate playing in the sand. I hate, like, if my surfaces are dirty and I can feel that, our brains don't register that as a safe place. And that term is kind of overused right now, but it's our body not feeling comfortable, not feeling right, not feeling adequate in our space. And that's when we freak out. And so we want to clean things, but we recognize that while we're cleaning, it's too messy to put away. So sensory safety has to come first. And then if that happens, then we can move up in the brain to the emotional regulation. So emotional regulation comes after sensory safety, sensory input. So then we can deal with our emotions because our emotions lead into logic. And if we approach things differently than that, then we can trigger fight or flight. So then we live just in survival mode all the time. If we don't feel comfortable in our space, we're just in survival mode, and we can only do what survival mode allows us to do. But if we can feel sensory safe in our house, then we can comfortably tackle the emotions of our clutter to get that out of the way, to get out of the middle of the brain and into the prefrontal cortex of logic and structure and systems. What happens, like you were saying earlier, when people break, they just get too overwhelmed and they finally call in reinforcements. It's because they haven't been able to figure out where they are and which comes first in their brain. And they want to feel sensory safe, but they realize that there's more than just cleaning a toilet that makes you feel sensory safe. Right. And so they don't know how to do the rest of it. And so they need to call in reinforcements. And I love it when people recognize that they can, and that we can do that for them, because we don't have any emotional connection to their stuff. Right. So we can walk them through a logical process and do it for them a lot of time, so that they get over the stuckness. Make that words now. But they get over the stuckness because it's way easier to maintain than it is to get through this big, huge project.
Right. Yeah. I love that you say that too, because we talk a lot about in cleaning, there's a lot of times there's one spot. Sometimes there's a couple spots. So it's like one spot that's driving you crazy for a really long time. And it's a spot that you could clean, but there's something, and I love that you're doing a deep dive into like all of the psychology behind this, because we don't think about these things every day, right?
No, we don't.
I mean, I don't even think about them every day, but it's hard to sometimes put into words. Why can I not clean that one spot of the baseboard? It's right there. I could do it, but every time I see it or I think about cleaning it, I feel an emotion. For me, it's disgust, and not necessarily with the spot, but sometimes with myself, that I can't just go do it. And if we just look at it surface level, we think we're just being lazy. We're tired. I just got off from work. I'm doing more important things. But there's just, like you're saying, there's a lot that goes behind that we're not understanding. And I think if we take time to talk about it and understand it, you can untangle so many things and get unstuck. I feel like stuckness is the perfect word. I hope that word's in the deck. If you're suffering from stuckness, give Ashley a call, because she can fix the stuckness. But that is where we have coaches that help people to get unstuck in so many areas of your life, whether it's your career or just anything, emotionally, physically, physical, fitness coaches too, if you're feeling stuck in that journey. So we do get stuck in all these different spots. And I can see cluttering, like organization, all these things you're saying. Even when you talk about cleaning, it makes me think of my own personal life. And I'm like, yeah, I need to clean that area still. And I own a cleaning company. But we're still human, makes us human. And I love that you understand so much of that side of things that customers, clients, people don't think about, because I'm sure you help them to uncover a ton and just make their lives so much better, which is amazing.
And we're pretty darn successful, if I do say so myself. But you hit the nail on the head with being able to find those one or two areas where you just get stuck, you get wrapped up. It's like, if my neighbor were to come over, if my mom or sister were to come over and help me, it's like they would just blow through something really, really fast. And I call those areas the catalysts. So when I go into a home to assess what needs to happen first and set priorities, I look for one of two spaces. And those are the emotional catalyst and the physical catalyst, because again, emotions are clutter, whether it's mental clutter or physical clutter, and one leads to the next. So we need to find that space. And then the physical catalyst of the emotional catalyst is pretty evident, because it's like, this is the place where you can see people get tense and they don't even want to talk about it. They just don't even want to go there, or they would rather close the door and walk away and not even address the issue at all. It's like, I don't have the bandwidth to tackle that right now. Okay. this is the emotional catalyst. You are obviously stuck. I can hear it in your voice. I can see it in your body. You just that's the emotional catalyst. And I want to dig into that part because that's going to make you feel the best in your home. And then I'm going to look for that physical catalyst. And that is the one area that if I tackle this one area, it's going to have the snowball effect into everything else in the house. So it's usually a storage space of some sort. So whether it's the kitchen cabinets or it's closets, a lot of times we go into these huge projects and it's like, well, I have to start with your linen closet. Really? Yes, actually, because it's a storage space. And once I know where everything it gets put away, then this storage room pulls things out of 3 other places in the house, which means then we can swap that and move that here and put this away. And all of a sudden, you already have the structure that you need to put your home in order. You just didn't use it right. And that's not right or wrong. That's not a moral, like, oh my gosh, you're wrong. It's just we need to put it away better based on how it needs to function. So I look for that emotional catalyst. I look for that physical catalyst. And it just helps the house to breathe again. And then once you have stuff put away, then it makes cleaning easy.
Yeah.
Then there's no guilt and shame that, then it's just, I can maintain this. I can do this. I can, and it's one of those where I love being able to tidy up before the cleaners come, because then I know they're just focused on cleaning, not moving my stuff.
Right.
Clean around it.
Right. Yeah. We run into that a ton.
Yeah.
Which is very hard when clients leave a lot of things around when we come, because we do want to get rid of germs. We want the place to smell good. We want it to visibly be cleaner, but it is hard when clients leave things out because we don't know where everything goes. And there is this anxiety that you're putting things away in the wrong place.
Where does it go?
We don't know where it goes. And clients still appreciate it when we still do that to an extent. But it is difficult to go in and do a really good job with cleaning when you're having to partially declutter some things. And but we don't want to leave a house not with the client walking in the door not feeling good about leaving the toys out because we didn't know where all the Legos went. So we do our best to try to work around that. Still a struggle. And then we get really familiar with some houses that we clean frequently, and we start to learn where things go, obviously. And so the overall process itself, is very rewarding because you do make a difference in people's lives. These are families that are extremely busy. They usually have kids and they usually have pets. I don't know, maybe 10% of our clients don't have pets. Everybody else has dogs, cats. And there's creating spaces where people feel safe, like you mentioned, where they just feel really good to be home. Because one of the things I can't stand is where people leave their home and they're dealing with maybe a stressful job or anything outside of the home. When you come home, it's supposed to be the safe space, the relaxing place. Right. And a lot of times we come home and it's not that. It's more stress and causes arguments. You don't feel good in your home. And it's the one place where you should feel that all the time. And so that's kind of the purpose, I think, for both of us.
I think one of the reasons we love going on vacation, especially staying in a motel, is because you walk into a motel and it's just like, somebody else is making my bed. Somebody else is like, I only have enough stuff to put in a suitcase, which I can't really make a disaster out of. And it just feels nice. Yeah. Right. And we want to be able to recreate that feeling, even if that's too uptight and that's too pristine to be realistic for a living situation. The feeling that you get of walking in, that you have anticipation to go do something fun, that you know that everything is neat and tidy and that you don't have massive responsibilities. We can duplicate that feeling in your house. Whether it's I want to feel energized and excited when I come home, or I want to feel relaxed and peaceful. This is my sanctuary space when I come home. I want to live in a house full of adventure. I want to, host parties. Whatever you want to feel in your home, People like you and me can create that for people. And
Mhm.
again, this is not about moral judgment.
Right.
Having a clean or dirty or a messy or disorganized or an immaculate house, there's nothing right or wrong about that. That's not, there's no moral judgment. When you and I walk into a home, I think one of our biggest, correct me if I'm wrong, but probably your biggest competition is shame, right?
Mhm.
Where other people feel bad that they can't do it,
Right.
that they can't figure this out, that they can't do it for themselves, that they can't. And so my biggest competitor is not another organizer. My biggest competitor is your boyfriend who thinks that you can do this all by yourself,
Mhm.
when that's not the issue, right?
Right.
And I don't mean to call out boyfriends anywhere. I'm just saying, like, there's an element of shame that comes with not being able to do this, and it shouldn't feel like that. That should not be the case. This
Yeah.
is not right or wrong. This is indifferent. This is neutral. Can you learn? Can you figure this out? And I figured out that that's where we go wrong, is sometimes we just aren't taught. My sister went to college with a girl who came up and said, I've been watching, this was one of her roommates. I've been watching you, and will you teach me how to clean?
Mhm.
My mom never taught me how to clean. So my sister in college is teaching one of her roommates, this is how you do your dishes, and this is how you clean the sink afterwards. You can't just do your dishes because now the sink is dirty. So now you need to fill up a hot soapy sink, and clean the fixtures, clean the counters. This is
Right.
how you do that. Wipe down, the fridge handles. This is how you vacuum. This is how you get the corners. She's teaching her roommate how to clean. And then once she was taught, she could figure it out.
Mhm.
And one of the reasons I got into organizing is I figured out that there were people that came to me and said, hey, if this was your house, what would you do? And I said, I would do this. And they would go do it, and it worked.
Mhm.
And they said, how did you know that? I said, well, I've been taught. Like, I took that for granted. By the time I got into college and my roommate said, actually, you have to clean up, and I could tidy up my own space, and I did it. It wasn't because it just came naturally. It was because I was taught, and I finally had a reason to implement it.
Mhm.
So we can be taught. This is not something that is a secret. This is not something that should be shameful. It's, let me teach you. And then if you don't have time, then I will just come do it for you. And that's
Right.
totally awesome. And there
Yeah.
again, that's not right, wrong, or indifferent, but can I teach you how to do it? Can I teach you how to live differently? Not better. I will only say better because sanitary is better, right?
Mhm.
We have to live sanitary. And that's the only better that I will ever say, is
Mhm.
we need to live better being sanitary.
Right.
But if we're there, if we're sanitary, then let me just teach you how to live differently. How to
Right.
live. Nothing is ever a problem until it's a problem, and only you can say that. So if it's a problem and you want to live differently, let me teach you how to do it. And then if you just don't want to do it, or you don't have time to do it, then I will come in and we do it for you. And life is amazing. It's win-win.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that things sometimes need to be taught. It in the house cleaning space, it's very saturated, extremely saturated. We have a lot of people that clean on the side, and that's totally fine. When I started Lavender Lush, my husband is all about quality. He's about quality, and I'm very much experienced. But we both agreed, when you come home to a clean home, how awesome would it be if it felt like you were walking into a hotel? We love going on vacations and walking into a nice room and knowing that it's clean. My husband is the guy that unpacks the whole luggage,
Oh, that's
hangs
me.
everything up. I figured you guys would be the same. And I'm not, I can live out of luggage for weeks, but I actually do it because of him. And I realize how much nicer it is to go through the closet and not through my luggage. Um, but it's like his favorite thing to do, right? When he gets into the room, he starts unpacking. And I'm like, what are
Unpack.
you
Yep.
doing? And he loves it. And then he puts his shoes nice and he puts the luggage away. I'm like, the luggage can stay out here. I'm going to need to get into it again. But there's still that feeling of walking into a clean room. I'm a little, now that I've had this Lavender Lush for 3 years, when I walk into a hotel, I am inspecting. I'm
I bet
checking,
you are.
especially toilet paper rolls. Like I want them to look cute. First, I don't know why, but I'm like, that's just one little thing you could have done. If you didn't do that, I feel like the whole room's not clean enough. And I'm checking bathrooms and toilets. Um, but when we started to hire people, we realized, because I think people on the outside just think this is easy. You just put things away. You just make things neat. You just wipe things down. Like it's more than that. I can't bring in staff and say, go clean. Like we're not any different than any other cleaning company then. We needed a process for cleaning everything. And if something was going wrong, say we're always cleaning toilets, but clients always complain toilets are still dirty. What are we doing wrong? And we can't pinpoint it if we don't have any quality in any process. So creating processes around cleaning houses has been challenging. Every house is different. I'm sure you know this better than anyone else. When you walk into a home, trying to determine that specific customer's needs, it takes a lot of discovery. And so yeah, it takes processes and a lot more than just wiping things down or putting things away.
Right.
Yeah.
But isn't the process what makes it repeatable?
Mm-hmm.
Every system needs to be logical, functional, repeatable, and teachable. If it's not those three things, you don't have a foolproof system.
Right.
So logical, functional, repeatable, and teachable. And the best businesses are the ones that have those systems.
Right.
So I have a system for figuring out the emotional side of things so that
Mm-hmm.
it's not brand new every single time, and that the clients don't have to think about it as much. And
Right.
then I have a system for how to get organized. And they touch each other. Like I said at the beginning, they touch each other, but they're not the same. And so it's really easy to separate them. Just like you have a system and a process for cleaning a house, and then you should have a system for tidying up, and you have a system for
Mm-hmm.
each system can be taught, but they're not separate bubbles. They're that Venn diagram that overlap, so that by doing one, it makes the next one easier. And by
Yeah.
doing this one, then that one just comes naturally. And it's so nice to get in and do the dirty work, if you will, the dusty work is what I call it, because it's and then to bring in cleaners like you afterwards and to just hand over this home that smells good, it looks good, it works well, and then everybody that shares that space is on board with this new way of doing things. It's just
Mm-hmm.
it's the most rewarding feeling in the
So much
world.
more enjoyable you can enjoy your
Yes.
family, and you can actually enjoy your home. Because I don't think a lot of people actually enjoy their homes.
Yeah.
You are
Well, and
excited to move in, and then it quickly becomes a big
sad.
chore.
Like the stuff in our lives is going to happen. We need
Mhm.
stuff to survive, right? But it's when stuff. So my business is called Rethink Clutter on Purpose, because there are 5 ways that we turn stuff toxic, and there are 5 re's. So one of those is those emotional reasons that we already talked about that makes toxicity in our homes. It's when we cause regret, resentment, we break relationships with people, and when we take on a responsibility that isn't ours. And if we have this negative, toxic relationship with stuff in this way, then it doesn't make way for the positive relationships with humans that we're designed to have. And so if we can get the toxicity out of the way, and that looks like using stuff to support relationships rather than the relationship with stuff ruining the relationship with people. So if we can avoid the negative re's and boost, it really is just flipping. Use your stuff to support relationships instead of ruining relationships to support your stuff.
Mhm.
That's toxic every single way that you look at it. And so it's, yeah, you have to have a cleaning closet. Yeah, you have to have things, every hobby requires more stuff. Every person requires more stuff. Every pet requires more stuff. Every job, every school, everything, it requires stuff. But if we have our priorities straight, then it makes coming home way better. And it makes it feel
Mhm.
like we're coming home instead of I'm coming home.
Yeah.
We want the calm, we want the relaxing, we want it to feel like you're going on vacation rather than an extra source of frustration that if you come home and you sit in the car for 45 minutes before you go inside, you don't like going home.
I was just going to say that. I was
Let's make
just going to say, have you ever sat in the garage in your car for 30 to 45 minutes sometimes? Some days, yeah, some days it
uh-huh.
is that long. Some days it's less. And some days you just really were holding the bathroom in the whole drive and you just run inside. And it isn't always clutter or mess. Sometimes it's just people want to talk to you. They've missed you all day and you've been talking to people all day and you come in and they're like, Mom, guess what I saw on YouTube today? And I just, yes, tell me. So it was
But
so
here
great.
again, how awesome would it be to come home and be bombarded by the humans in our life,
Mhm.
knowing that we don't have this constant ticker tape going on in the back of our mind.
Right.
Of like, yes, you can tell me what's on YouTube for 2 minutes, and then I need to know that you got your bed made and that you did your bathroom jobs and that you got your chores done. And if we have neat, tidy, organized systems in our life, then that ticker tape can go away and we can
Mhm.
actually connect with our kids instead of going, okay, all right, like, are you done yet? Are you done yet? Are you done yet? Okay, now we need to do this and we need to get dinner and we need, it's the whole idea of life can change when you have systems and processes and you don't have dirt and clutter in the way.
Right.
And that's what I try to teach people. And that's what you try to teach people. That's what this whole side of this kind of industry works on, is getting people to feel comfortable in their house. We spend so much time in our homes. Why not love it?
Right. I
Why
love
not?
that. You are so smart. Thank you so much for sharing.
Absolutely. I'm so happy to share it.
This
I
was
love a chance to
amazing
teach.
information. I mean, I need reminders myself. They're not things that I think about every day, because you get caught up in the day-to-day things and you forget. And so these are really good reminders. And Ashley, if anybody needs to get a hold of your business, if they're interested and they want to know more about your process, how can they get a hold of you?
My website, rethinkclutter.com, is probably the best, easiest, fastest. But I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, and I'm on TikTok as well, under the same call, under Rethink Clutter.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining.
Thanks, Nicole. I appreciate the whole conversation is awesome.
Thanks so much for watching. If you liked this content and you found it useful, please make sure to subscribe to this channel and hit the bell so that you can get notifications whenever we release new videos.